Our Law and Justice segment tonight, two teenagers accused of raping a 14-year-old girl at a Maryland high school last week were found to have crossed the U.S.-Mexico border illegally back in 2016. Jose Montano, 17 years old, and Sanchez Milian, 18 years old, were apprehended by federal border agents and set to be deported at that time. But instead, they were allowed to join family members in Maryland, two of over 150,000 unaccompanied minors who have been allowed into the U.S. in the past 3 years. With me now to break this down, from the Federation for American Immigration Reform, Ira Melman. Ira, thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Ira, this is an absolutely shocking story. In a Maryland high school bathroom, these two boys, these two young men, 17 and 18 years old, allegedly raped a 14-year-old girl.
Well, we don't even know that they were really 17 or 18. They were still in ninth grade, by the way. You had a lot of adults who snuck in claiming to be kids. The Obama administration simply turned them loose. They gave them notices to appear that they knew they would never appear for. In many cases, you had people being reunited with family members in the United States who were here illegally themselves. And all of this was done without any regard to the safety and the security of the American people. And this, unfortunately, is the price that we pay. This 14-year-old girl in Rockville, Maryland, paid the price for years of neglect and simply not even paying attention to who we have letting into this country.
Right. It's absolutely shocking. It's heartbreaking to hear cases like this. Ira, this has been treated by the media. This has been treated politically badly, in my opinion, for two reasons. The first of which is the fact that Maryland, after this happened just recently, Maryland wants to enact sanctuary city laws, not just for Rockville, Maryland, not just for that city, but for the entire state. So I want to touch on that part first and ask you, explain the legality of sanctuary cities to me, because every bit of research I've done shows me that sanctuary cities actually violate federal law. Is that true?
That is true. In 1996, Congress passed a law that included, among other things, outlawing sanctuary cities. This was legislation that was signed by President Bill Clinton back then. It seemed like perfectly logical legislation that we should not allow local communities to thwart federal immigration enforcement. They've been getting away with it for a long time. This administration has come in and said, we are going to cut off certain federal funding if you don't abolish sanctuary policies, but you have jurisdictions like Maryland that would rather put public safety at risk. They would rather forego potentially millions and millions of dollars in federal aid and still be able to shield people who are in the country illegally, including criminal aliens. We're not even just talking about your run-of-the-mill illegal alien. We are talking about people who are arrested for other offenses inside the United States.
Right, because those are the people that I really care about right now. The people that I care about are the illegal immigrants who are committing violent crimes against the American citizens. It's segmented in my mind into two separate demographics here. People who just came to the United States illegally and then went on to live otherwise law-abiding lives, and then this other segment of criminal aliens who come here and they commit rape, they commit murder, they commit robbery, they're drug traffickers, they serve prison times, they go through our system of justice for crimes that they've committed, and then they're let back on our streets. And I guess that brings me to the question, if sanctuary cities, which shield these criminals, these criminal aliens, from being deported because they don't allow that coordination between federal immigration officials and local law enforcement, what's the loophole? How are these cities allowed to get away with not coordinating if it's against federal law?
Well, because nobody has been enforcing those laws. Certainly not under the Obama administration. The Obama administration went after jurisdictions like Arizona that actually said, we want to help enforce immigration laws. The Obama administration said, no, you can't. We'll sue you to stop you. But they allowed these sanctuary cities to flagrantly violate federal laws that prohibit sanctuary policies and place at danger a lot of people around the country. This 14-year-old girl, unfortunately, is not the only victim. There are many, many other victims of these policies, of people that local police departments refuse to turn over to federal immigration authorities. This is routine police procedure. Anytime a police department gets a request from another law enforcement agency saying, hey, you've got somebody we want, the answer is sure. We'll hold on to them, you come and pick them up. But this is a political statement being made by the local politicians saying, we don't want to cooperate on this one issue.
Right, and let me share some statistics here, because this is not just anecdotal. There was a study done in 2014 between January and August, so those 8 months, that showed that there were 8,145 criminal aliens who'd been convicted in our system of justice, served jail time. They were released from jail because 8,145 examples, individuals. They had detainer requests from ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, against them. The local law enforcement declined to coordinate with them in any way, cooperate in any way. Of that 8,000, 1,867 of them were rearrested for a total of 4,298 times, 7,491 charges against them, all for that political statement.
Right. That's 7,000 some odd victims that didn't have to be victims. These are political statements that local officials are doing to appease certain fringe constituencies. And basically, they're telling the American public, we don't care about your safety. We would rather satisfy the demands of a small number of special interests than do what is simply necessary to protect the security of people in our community. And that is simply unacceptable. And what the Maryland legislature is now contemplating, making the entire state a sanctuary state, is simply rubbing salt in the wounds of this 14-year-old girl and her family.
Right.
And people in Maryland and the rest of the country should be outraged because people that Maryland releases don't necessarily stay in Maryland.
Right.
They can go anywhere in the country.
Right, and it doesn't even matter. To me, this is just, it's mind-boggling to me that feminists, that women everywhere, that anyone who believes that this little girl has any fundamental right not to be assaulted, that they're not outraged, that they're not speaking out about this. Ira, we're almost out of time, but I do want to touch on the second part of this that I think, like I said, the media and the left are treating this very unfairly, and that's the press coverage that's been given to the unaccompanied minors that President Obama led across the border. He made it sound like these were starving children that came across the border, that we were giving them a better life. This is what happens. This is what happens. And we did a story, too, a week or two ago about the sex trafficking, the sex slavery that happens to these unaccompanied minors. But these are not all little children that are coming over and that need, bread and water and a house and a family to love them. These people are committing crimes.
Some of them are committing crimes. Some of them are just taking advantage, or were taking advantage of the Obama policies. They knew if they got to the border, turned themselves in. In many cases, the Border Patrol didn't find them. They found the Border Patrol.
Right.
They knew they were going to be released and allowed to remain in the United States. What we have seen since the change in administration, the number of people coming across the border has actually plummeted. Things haven't changed all that much in Central America. It gives you an indication that people were responding to the policies of this country and taking advantage of it. And as soon as we demonstrate that we have some resolve to enforce our laws, the situation begins to resolve itself.
Right, and when it does begin to resolve itself, then we're a lot safer, and little girls like the girl in Maryland are a lot safer too. Ira, thanks so much for coming on the show. It was great to talk to you.